listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network, coming to you live every Sunday morning from the fabulous state of California. Now let's have a big round of applause for the host of our show, Mr. Randall White.
Oh, I wish you could see what's going on behind the scenes here. Whoa, I just nailed myself in the eyeball, with my headset because I was running around, you know what, trying to be in charge of too many things at one time. Multitasking, Patty Pyburn. Good morning, everyone. I'm Randall White, as you just heard Monica announce there, and we're trying something new off the top. If you're watching the video version of this, either online or, with your smartphone or tablet app, which we've seen a rush of downloads of those lately, which makes me super happy. So we wanted it like a video opens, like if you're watching a TV show, right?
Right, yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that was going properly, and I was running around the desk.
Trying to be in two places at once.
Exactly. I hope your morning is off to a good start, everyone. Hello, Santa Cruz, Monterey, San Jose, Paso Robles, San Luis Obispo. Let's see, what else do we have all in there? Santa Maria.
Yes.
And anyone who might be listening online, good morning, Mom and Dad. Those are my two biggest fans.
Your biggest fans, yes.
I'm lucky that I have parents that are my biggest fans. In fact, I was just chatting with my mom on the phone yesterday and teaching her, it's kind of a replaying theme from time to time. Hi, honey. Now, what do I have to do again to...
What do I click to?
What do I click to? Yeah. It's the whole computer mom-son thing. So, a good Sunday fun day, and... This is the Eat, Drink, Explore radio show where we talk about all things food, wine, craft beer, travel, tourism in a healthy and sustainable manner, because we want you to enjoy everything, but we want you to stay fit while you're doing it, of course. And we should mention that this hour of Eat, Drink, Explore radio is brought to you by Sunset, Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event. It is September 27th through the 30th. It's coming up soon, for sure, to culminate California Wine Month. Okay, straight ahead this hour, we've got a lot coming up, including, have you ever walked into the grocery store and thought, this healthy food is too expensive? Well, how about eating good food on a tight budget? We'll be talking about a nutritionist and registered dietitian who will help us in that area, certainly something worth tuning in for. Then, of course, you saw all of the, well, how do I put this nicely? There was a study out of Stanford University questioning the nutritional value of organic food. And it wasn't so much the study, it was how the news media portrayed the study. All of the headlines were, organic, no better for you than sustainable. But yeah, if you look at one sliver of it, the nutritional value, I don't think anyone ever thought the nutritional value was better an organic, apple.
I don't think that was ever the claim. You're right.
Right. So anyway, we'll delve into that with a writer for the Chicago Sun-Times and also the Christian Science Monitor. He had a piece out this week sort of, rebuffing.
Kind of debunking that.
Debunking, thank you. And so we'll speak with him about that. And then our travel deals picks this week come from moi. I am going to go online based on a place that you picked on our Facebook page for us to explore. And so I'll take a look at some of the things that I found, because I think I'm actually pretty good at finding some deals online.
I agree.
Okay, Patty. So, and then our compass hour this week is the word SEA, S-E-A. Lots of good stuff that hour. But right now, it's time to get the news from Patty Pyburn. And what do we have topping the headlines today, Patty?
Well, for all of our Eat, Drink, Explorers out there on this Sunday morning, here is some of the stories we're following. An expanded warning this weekend about the hantavirus outbreak at Yosemite National Park following a third death. 8 people total now are confirmed to have contracted the disease. 5 of those are recovering. Nearly all the cases are linked to the signature tent cabins in the valley's Curry Village. Those cabins are now closed. More than 22,000 visitors who stayed in the affected areas since mid-June are now being contacted by health workers. A new study out of Norway shows coffee drinkers may feel less pain when hunched over an office computer for long periods of time. Nearly half of the participants participants in the study have issues with chronic neck and shoulder pain, they were asked to perform computer-based office work for a full 90 minutes. Now, those who drank coffee prior to the experiment did not develop pain as quickly as those who were caffeine-free. Now, researchers say more study is necessary, but the findings could lead to more understanding regarding coffee and caffeine and its role in pain management. The Napa Valley Wine Harvest is running 2 to 3 weeks ahead of previous years. The Napa Valley wine growers say it was a dry, warm year with cool nights. Rainfall totals show about 26 inches during the wet season. Now, as far as individual varietals go, Malbec seems to be having a bumper crop year, while Sauvignon Blanc appears down a bit. And if you would like to watch the wine growers press conference, you'll find that video at eatdrinkexplorer.com. The world's largest fair is set to kick off in just a couple of weeks, but there may not be enough drink to go around.
What?
I know. Hold on. That's right. Don't worry, though. It's not Savor the Central Coast. There is a problem facing this year's Oktoberfest celebration in Munich. Years ago, I attended that.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, lots of fun. Actually in September, though, not in October.
Right.
Breweries are working to deliver enough beer for the event's 5 million attendees. Now, according to an article in a German paper, the issue isn't the local breweries having enough beer, it's that the warm summer and other popular events drained the bottle supply. The man who runs the local Polliner brewery is asking people to bring back their cases of empty bottles.
Of course.
Yeah, this is according to an NBC News report. Now, breweries in Germany wash and reuse their bottles. We like that. Up to 50 times. The turnaround this year, though, has been lagging. The annual 16-day Oktoberfest event, known for its beer drinking crowd, that's what it's all about.
Right.
Reuters says 7.5 million liters of beer consumed last year.
Oh.
And I can believe it.
Wow.
So hopefully bring back those bottles. All right.
I like my beer on draft. So do they have enough kegs? I'm wondering if they could just, get a lot, most of the beer served in keg form. They should be fine.
Problem solving, Randall. All right, quick look at our weather. Sunny for the most part along the California coast today with highs near 70 degrees in places like Pismo Beach and Monterey. Warmer temperatures as you head inland, though, with most of the valley locations expecting to hit the 90s today. There are some watches, warnings, and advisories in place throughout much of the state as the chance of thunderstorms could produce some flash flooding in the mountains, especially in Southern California. Dry lightning and breezy conditions are sparking fire concerns. We're in peak fire season right now, and this is for other parts of the state where that dry summer has been an issue. All right, Randall White, that is it for the Eat Drink Explore news desk.
That's it, and a lot of really good information. That hantavirus thing just keeps haunting Yosemite National
scary.
Park. I posted a version of that story yesterday afternoon, and it took off like wildfire. We had a record number of visitors to the Eat Drink Explore website yesterday. Several thousand people
checking that out.
At one point, I clicked on, it's called Google Analytics, and I looked at a map of the world, and it was just lighting up like everywhere. The world is interested because we have one of the world's top destinations right in our backyard here in California.
And they had all those cancellations on one of their biggest weekends, Labor Day,
Right.
which is showing you the people's reaction. Hantavirus is something I've been familiar with growing up in Arizona.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we have known. I've always been, if you're cleaning out an attic, garage, or storage area, really sensitive if there was some droppings.
Spread by mice feces,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right, everyone, stick around. You want to buy really good, healthy, nutritious food, but you're on a tight budget and say that's impossible? Our next guest says not so. She's a dietitian, registered dietitian and nutritionist. Stick around, everyone. You're listening to the Eat Drink Explore Radio Network on this Sunday morning. I'm your host, Randall White. Back in a moment. During its heyday in the 1920s and 30s, San Luis Obispo County's Hearst Castle saw many a lavish party, attended by the rich and famous. Now you too can head to the castle for a once-in-a-lifetime experience featuring local, farm-inspired cuisine to celebrate the rich history of locavore living that Mr. Hearst pioneered in the region as you sip wine and sample fresh seafood, locally grown produce, and meats from nearby farmers and ranchers. Eco-friendly wine lovers will appreciate the vine-to-glass theme carried throughout the event, featuring the best vintages from the region. It's part of opening night for this year's Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event September 27th through the 30th to culminate California Wine Month. To purchase tickets and for a full listing of activities, head to SavorCentralCoast.com. The historic Santa Margarita Ranch, exactly halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles off Highway 101, was founded in the mid-1700s and served as an assistant mission to the nearby mission in San Luis Obispo. The 14,000 acres that make up the ranch today have served a variety of purposes over the years, including grazing land for large herds of Mexican cattle, prime vineyard land, and this fall will once again host the main event for Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September the 27th through the 30th to culminate California Wine Month. Meet top chefs from the Central Coast as well as nationally recognized culinary celebrities. Several chef demonstrations will be featured, including the Battle of the Bay, hosted by the Food Network's Ted Allen of Chopped. To purchase tickets, head to SavorCentralCoast.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. And welcome back, everyone, on this Sunday morning. Great to have you with us. 8:19 the time as we talk all things food, beverages, travel, and tourism. This is our health and fitness segment, a chance for us to take a look at the food, beverages, and activities in your life from the standpoint of overall well-being. I am Randall White, joined by my co-host, Patty Pyburn.
Good morning.
And a very good morning, Patty. I know that you have a couple of kids and a brother, and
yes.
you have to shop for a full family.
Yes.
And when you go to the grocery store, that's not always easy on the budget when you're looking to buy nutritious foods, correct?
Right. And to make everyone happy and to feel like I'm making good choices and not spending too much.
It's a balancing act, right?
Yes.
Because, your kids are pretty good about wanting good nutritious food, but sometimes you're being tugged in several different directions.
Absolutely.
On that level. And I feel sorry for the people that live in what we call food deserts, where they don't have access to some of those grocery
Farmers
stores.
markets.
Farmers markets, right.
Yeah, and we're lucky too. Even our supermarkets have access to great local produce. So,
Oh yeah, I have a store down the road from us. We call it Foods for the Rich and Famous because it, and I won't name the store, but it is it's really pricey and
yes. Good choices, but it costs you.
and I return again and again because I really want it. Well, something caught my eye the other day online because who doesn't want to save some money when they're buying that healthy, nutritious food? And it was entitled Good Food on a Tight Budget. And I thought, aha, here's a subject for the show, no doubt about it. So I started looking over the shopping guide, and it's put together so well and so easy to navigate and find exciting tips. You can even watch a video with a nutritionist, Dawn Undurraga. I hope I'm pronouncing Dawn's name correctly. She is with the Environmental Working Group and joins us this morning on Eat, Drink, Explore Radio. Good morning, Dawn.
Hi, Randall and Patty. I'm thrilled to be here.
Undurraga?
Undurraga.
There you go. It's the double R that kills me. I try and I
Yes.
try. It depends on the placement of the word. Like I can say perro very easily, but for some reason when a U precedes the double R, I get a little more tongue-tied. At any rate, Dawn, or Dawn, that's what I'll refer to you as from here on out if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
What was the thinking process behind putting this shopping guide together?
Well, people are always saying, healthy food, it's too expensive, and, kind of the conventional wisdom is that healthy food is too expensive. And we all know that and feel that, at the grocery store when we're trying to put, our shopping cart together and putting good food on the table at night. And so EWG wanted to ask that question, go to the research and ask, is it possible? And additionally, is it possible to do with the planet in mind?
And you have a number of ways to go about this. You have sort of like before you shop, at home, and then at the store. So let's start with the before you shop. What should you be doing?
Well, the best thing you can do is to make a list. And I know people kind of know that, but it really makes a difference. And actually using a meal planner is a great way to help create that list.
So be organized?
Yes.
I don't do that. Do you, Patty?
I try. I really cannot be successful at the grocery store without at least starting with a list, which I often forget at home, but I try.
You don't do it on your iPhone?
I do now.
Right.
Yes.
Does Environmental Working Group have an iPhone app for this?
We don't yet, but I do hope that we will get one in the future. That would be great. But, the thing is, when I was, developing the guide along with the rest of the research team, I started trying to implement these tips that I knew about, but, actually doing them. And I found that with a meal planner, it's excellent because you throw less food away, which is a big problem. Also, nearly 30 to 40% of the food in this country gets just thrown away. So that's another way to save money.
I know. Sometimes when I look at my compost bin, I am excited that I have such great compost, but I'm also thinking, wow, I throw away a lot of produce and mainly produce.
I hate throwing away food. I try to be so creative with leftovers. That's one of the things I really, really hate is throwing away food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, protein is one of the expensive areas on a shopping list for sure, and one of your tips is to add beans and lentils to your meal plan.
Yes. Try to add them in with meals. If you're gonna make a turkey chili, try to throw some beans in there too. That helps the turkey go further. Or replace meals. Join Meatless Monday, and we have some recipes in there in our guide that you can look to for inspiration on that as well.
Now, Dawn, I have a question for you. This is just one of my kind of shopping habits, and I tend to buy more whole foods than already halfway prepared or totally prepared foods.
Definitely.
I like to cook, but is that a good approach, or is it a money-saving option to buy something that's partially prepared? Does that end up with less waste as far as portion sizes?
When it comes to the cost, back to basics, using the bulk bins and Whole Foods, that is really the best way to save money. And trying to cook, maybe once or twice a week, and then use those meals throughout the week, or put some stuff in the freezer. That's kind of the best way to cooking at home. And I know it's a challenge for people, but that's really the best way to save money.
And I know that is, but then when I'm shopping down the aisles of Trader Joe's and they have all these things packaged and
Convenience.
and stuff, and I just think, I could never prepare that at home with the sauce and all that stuff.
And then you give in to that impulse, and
right. It's too bad. But now at home, you say cook and freeze in large batches. I guess that goes into your plan of cooking a couple of large meals and then serving those throughout the week, huh?
Yeah, and then we also have, recipes in here that, take, 5 to 10 minutes, quick things you can throw together as well. So it doesn't all have to be slaving over a hot stove, especially in summertime.
Okay, Dawn, I have another question for you. So I love to go to a farmer's market and, things like that. But honestly, I do a lot of shopping at, Costco, the places where you can buy big bulk items that when you do the math, it saves you money. However, I find myself spending a ton of money, usually that I don't plan, because there's things in there that are so appealing. And then also...
You got to stick to the list. You got to stick to the list. For every minute you're in the grocery store, I think research has said it's like you spend like $2. So the quicker you can get in and out.
Wow.
And don't go shopping hungry?
No, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a really bad one. When you go shopping hungry, everything looks good. So here's my other question is, sometimes because I'm buying in bulk to save money, I have too much of something. I end up throwing it away, which makes me crazy. But so what's the balance there? Am I really saving myself money in the long run?
Well, I can't really answer that we didn't, research that specific question. But, if you're throwing things away, then you're not really saving the money. So we suggest, you buy things from bulk bins and kind of buy what you need, and then stock up on your non-perishables. Things like dried beans are a good example, although not everyone's going to, have the time or be able to do that.
Pressure cookers, that saves the time on the dried.
That's true.
Pressure cookers.
Yes,
I think it's
very, very true.
An absolute necessity.
Yeah, or oils or things that are non-perishable, or or even big bags of frozen vegetables, things that will keep for a long time. Those are good things to buy in bulk. But if you're buying the things that can kind of go bad on you, then those are things that are probably better off not buying in bulk.
So Dawn, our whole next segment is this topic I'm going to ask you right now, but I did want to get your take on it. You saw the study out of Stanford University looking at organics. Organics are expensive at the store. What's your take?
We were the environmental working group. We're not really happy with the way that the headlines portrayed that study.
That's what it is. It's the headlines. I agree with you.
Yes, there were a lot of good findings in there. Organic milk. Definitely had more omega-3s, these great fats that are great for developing brains and, heart disease and even maybe Alzheimer's, so organic milk and organic chicken, both having, more nutrition that way. So, we kind of disagree with the overall spin of that. And also, there was less pesticides in the organic. So, problems with the way it was portrayed for sure.
Dawn, I got to let you go on that note, and I couldn't agree with you more. The headlines, the study, I did not have that big of a problem with. The headlines, I did. So, Dawn Undurraga with the Environmental Working Group. It's so easy. It's ewg.org. We have a link at etrickexplore.com. Check out this guide to help save you money at the grocery store. Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks for having me.
It's time to channel your inner cowboy or cowgirl with a bit of rustic elegance thrown in for an upcoming culinary experience in Paso Robles at Windfall Farms, an exclusive community that promotes and enhances the sustainability of local agriculture and celebrates equestrian, ranch, and agrarian lifestyles. The Paso Glow event is taking place Saturday evening, September the 29th, from 6 to 10 on the final night of this year's Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September 27th through the 30th, to culminate California Wine Month. The event will wow you with ranch-inspired delicacies prepared by the area's top chefs, the region's best wines, and the warm glow of many illuminated hot air balloons. To purchase tickets and for a full listing of activities, head to savorcentralcoast.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. Well, howdy, and a good morning to you. 8:33 now, the time on this Sunday, and we certainly hope that your day is off to a good start thus far, for the most part, no matter where you live within the sound of my voice. If you're listening on the radio, then you probably have clear blue skies and a nice day straight ahead. Patty Pyburn joins me as well, my lovely co-host and co-anchor for the better part of a decade now. Hi, Patty. How are you?
Good morning.
I was just thinking about that the other day.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. So a lovely
So stop
time.
dwelling on that, okay?
Right. So, you probably heard it, a study out of Stanford University. And what this study did is they took a look at a lot of other studies and then aggregated is that the right term? Mm-hmm. Aggregated all of the information from those studies to come up with a conclusion on the nutritional value of organic foods and some other aspects of organics as well. News media, from television to radio and certainly newspapers, grabbed on to the headline of this study, which was that the amount of, say, calcium, vitamin C, vitamin A that you might find in a organic apple compared to a conventionally grown apple was roughly the same, that there's no nutritional boost by buying the organic. So all the headlines read, pricey organic, no better for you than conventional. That's not true. That they glossed over. You could find it in the articles, but it was buried beyond the point that most people read. And you could find the other information, such as the fact that pesticide residues were substantially lower with organics, although they, even that they said, but these pesticide levels fall within the guidelines established by the federal government. Well, our federal government has higher guidelines for a lot of things, arsenic among them, that other countries say is way unhealthy. Yeah. So, there's that, and then just a vast array of other aspects to this article that sort of got under my skin, and a lot of others. If you looked at newspapers a couple days later, not in the news portion of the newspaper, but in the editorial and opinion sections, you started to see a lot of pushback.
A reaction to the headlines that kind of got it wrong, essentially.
I think they did. It's not the first time, Patty. You and I have worked in television news for a long time, and we know that we can sort of take a headline and run with it. One of the pieces I read that I really enjoyed was by a writer, Terry Boyd. He has a blog called The Blue Kitchen, and he's a regular contributor to the Chicago Sun-Times and the Christian Science Monitor. His piece called Organic versus Non-Organic, Why I'm Still Going to Buy Organic, was featured in the Christian Science Monitor. And Terry joins us right now from, I believe, his home in Chicago. Terry, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I just wanted to give a voice to that other side that kept ending up in the opinion section and not the news section. But in my personal opinion, I think the news departments at these papers needed to run a second article highlighting some of those other findings in the piece. How do you feel about it?
Well, I do think that, and it was exactly that kind of news media getting it wrong that got me started thinking and writing about this. But you were talking about how things have developed over the past several days. And interestingly, not only are people taking the media to task, but there are some things taking this study itself to task.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that. Enlighten us.
Well, for one thing, Charles Benbrook, who is with the Center for Sustaining Agriculture and Natural Resources in Washington State University, has studied, read more than 200 of the 298 references that the Stanford study cited, and he's come away with a completely different take.
Oh, really? What are some of his points?
Well, for one thing, he said that the way the study itself was designed, it was designed in such a way that it precluded a lot of the useful information. But also, in looking at some of the same materials they studied, he found that, in fact, foods that are grown organically often increase their nutrients from 10 to 30%.
Oh.
And some of the nutrients are increased as much as 50 to 80%.
So that flies in the face of the whole nutrient portion of it. My argument was I don't buy organic foods for the nutrient value, and I think that was the gist of your piece in the Christian Science Monitor as well, right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things about that is, again, we're not buying them just to eat foods that are more nutritious for us. We're buying them to eat foods that contain fewer pesticides. And you brought up the point that several other countries feel that what is considered acceptable here is not acceptable. But also there's the whole thing of beyond the individual, beyond me, am I going to be healthier by eating this? There's what's happening to the farm workers who are growing foods that are sprayed with pesticides.
Yeah, they're sprayed when they're out there in the fields. They come in contact with the pesticides that are still on the surface of the plants. And you're right, there is that whole aspect of the farm workers.
And in that regard, I saw on the CDC site that some 10 to 20,000 physician-diagnosed pesticide poisonings happen every year for for agricultural workers.
And you're talking about the Centers for Disease Control?
Yes.
Really? So they have that listed on their site?
Yes. And to me, one of the things that says is if there are 10 to 20,000 physician-diagnosed poisonings, how many don't get diagnosed, don't get reported?
You know, Terry, along with the health of the workers, the people who are producing our food under conventional farming practices, there's that. But there's also, as a consumer, you want to support products that you can feel good about buying. So I believe there are a lot of people buying organics, you know, not necessarily because they hold some greater nutritional value, but because they want to put their money where they believe they want to support those practices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And beyond the farm workers, there's what's happening to the animals who are being raised for food. Generally, animals who are raised on under organic practices live healthier and happier lives.
Yeah, you know, Terry, there's a really great article that I found in the New York Times opinion pages for their Sunday review section called Where Cows Are Happy and Food is Healthy. And the author is Nicholas Kristof, who often writes fantastic pieces for the Times. He has a friend who has a dairy farm in Oregon and was saying that his friend went organic several years back, loves his cows so much he has a name for every single one of them, and was a little concerned about not giving the cows antibiotics. He didn't want to see his cows get sick and be unhealthy, but just the reverse was found when he took his herd off of antibiotics. He found that his cows were healthier and producing more quality milk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the organic things that we always buy is organic eggs. For one thing, they're just better eggs. They taste better. The yolks are deep yellow, almost orange, and everything. The shells are thicker because the calcium hasn't been stressed out of the birds. But chickens, among farm animals, chickens are at the low end of the totem pole when it comes to being treated properly, especially in industrial farming situations. And you only have to read about the horrific treatment of chickens to say, okay, I will pay $4 or $5 for a dozen eggs.
You know, there are certain items that buying organic makes more sense than others. I admit I don't buy everything organic, but I do when it comes to what's known as the Dirty Dozen. And this is according to organic.org. The dozen are peaches, and I love stone fruit just in general. This is the time of year we're rounding out on that, though. Peaches, apples, sweet bell peppers, celery, nectarines, strawberries, a big one, and especially in our listening area here on the Central Coast, we produce more strawberries than any other place in the nation. Cherries, pears, imported grapes, spinach, lettuce, and potatoes. So when you're at the store, those are the dozen that are typically the most contaminated with pesticides or in the conventional process of growing these create the biggest harm.
So those are that's the key list to think organic if you're shopping.
Yes, exactly. So, go ahead, Terry.
You do raise a good point. We don't buy everything organic either. It's often a question of convenience or the cost, things like that.
And there are some other aspects to growing as well. I understand that organic has become sort of a sales pitch for a large growing industry. There are biodynamic farms. There are farms that take a look at other areas, Patty.
And I would say, too, this is one where I think farmers markets come into play, the whole know your farmer thing, because it doesn't have to be stamped organic, but if you speak to the grower and you learn about their practices, you could feel comfortable that I'm buying this strawberry. It's not technically organic, but I agree with the practices this farmer is using. He's not using chemicals.
Right. Local. Well, Terry Boyd, you expressed at least an opposing view to that study that came out. People can find the link to it at our website, eatdrinkexplore.com. Also, check out Terry's site. It's a good one, Blue Kitchen Blog. Terry Boyd from Chicago, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we are back in just a moment with today's travel deals. Stick around. The historic Santa Margarita Ranch, exactly halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles off Highway 101, was founded in the mid-1700s and served as an assistant mission to the nearby mission in San Luis Obispo. The 14,000 acres that make up the ranch today have served a variety of purposes over the years, including grazing land for large herds of Mexican cattle, prime vineyard land, and this fall will once again host the main event for Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September the 27th through the 30th to culminate California Wine Month. Meet top chefs from the Central Coast as well as nationally recognized culinary celebrities. Several chef demonstrations will be featured, including the Battle of the Bay, hosted by the Food Network's Ted Allen of Chopped. To purchase tickets, head to savorcentralcoast.com. During its heyday in the 1920s and 30s, San Luis Obispo County's Hearst Castle saw many a lavish party, attended by the rich and famous. Now you too can head to the castle for a once-in-a-lifetime experience featuring local, farm-inspired cuisine to celebrate the rich history of locavore living that Mr. Hearst pioneered in the region as you sip wine and sample fresh seafood, locally grown produce, and meats from nearby farmers and ranchers. Eco-friendly wine lovers will appreciate the vine to glass theme carried throughout the event, featuring the best vintages from the region. It's part of opening night for this year's Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September 27th through the 30th to culminate California Wine Month. To purchase tickets and for a full listing of activities, head to savorcentralcoast.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly.
You waited all week, and it's finally here. The Eat, Drink, Explore Weekly Travel Deals Extravaganza.
8:49 now the time on this Sunday morning, the final day of the weekend. We had a 3-day weekend last week, and it threw my entire week off. I kept thinking it wasn't the right day. Does that happen to you? Like where you're like, wait a minute, what day is today?
Wait, what day is it?
Right. But we at the same time we moved our show to Sunday, and so that also threw me off. I kept thinking I was a day behind, or
Yes.
a day ahead, or I got however you would.
It's not as bad if you're ahead, but when you're behind, it can really get you.
Yes. So a question that I get all the time when it comes to travel is people will ask me, Randall, how can I get a cheap room in XYZ town?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, well, do you follow Travel Zoo's Top 20? That's a good one.
That is a great one.
We had Gabe on the show last week. Sneak Away if you're looking for the upscale areas and nice resorts. And some, there's a myriad of travel sites you can go to. There is only one site where you can really get, in my opinion, the best blind deal possible. And it is Priceline.com. I've been using it since the late 90s, and I know that a lot of people shy away from it because they're afraid if they don't.
It's intimidating to me. I am always afraid to commit to the purchase because I'm not quite sure what I'm getting. So
you also have to have the right combination in place for it to work. For instance, if you say say it's a business situation and you will be traveling with another salesperson or business person, and it's not really the type of relationship where you'd feel comfortable sharing a bed.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah,
right?
Okay.
There is you don't have a pick over the type of bed you get. And so, if that were the case and all of a sudden the room you got and there were no other rooms available, then you didn't win out via Priceline. But if you are a couple traveling and you don't mind getting a room with two queen size beds, you just use one of them, or you aren't super picky about a specific hotel brand. Some people really like to build up their Hilton Honors or,
right.
whatever it might be. Priceline's really the way to go. Now, Patty, I know traveling with kids and family, you have that whole bed situation that you have to worry about. So Priceline may or may not work for you in many cases. I can tell you this. This is the honest truth. I'm not making up these figures. I have stayed on Michigan Avenue in Chicago for, I think it was between $35 and $39 a night at the Intercontinental Hotel.
This was a Priceline deal.
This was a Priceline deal.
Wow.
This goes back several years, I'd say about 10 years. But even back then, it was just a phenomenal deal. The last time I was there in June, we paid, I want to say it was $70-something a night for the... Ricardo, was that a Hilton? What was that we were staying in? I feel like it was a Hilton or a Hyatt right there across from Lincoln Park. The better deals are found in the larger metropolitan areas.
Okay, that's good to know.
The smaller, more resorty the place, the less likely that Priceline is going to work for you.
Okay.
One of the tricks to try is, because there's a whole way of going about doing this bidding process. It works as a bid. You choose the star level for the hotel that you want to stay in, for anywhere from 1 to, I think it's like 5-star resort properties. And then you choose an area of the town. So just for the sake of argument, let's use San Francisco. Okay. So you can choose the Embarcadero, you can choose Fisherman's Wharf, you can choose the Union Square area, which I think they have divided into Union Square South and North. You can choose the Van Ness Corridor, and then you can choose other areas of the Bay Area if you want to choose over in Oakland or the airport. Airports are always a great deal. You can get rock bottom pricing at just about every airport if you don't mind staying. I like to stay within walking distance of the attractions, and airports are typically not.
Right. Yeah,
walking
typically
distance.
not. Yes.
Right. But like in San Francisco's case, you could take BART, and BART would take you right into the city. And so depending on how much you could save, if you don't mind doing that,
right.
You
have to kind of weigh those options.
Right. So one thing that you can do, because if your bid is not accepted, you get another opportunity, but you have to change something. You have to add another neighborhood. You have to lower the star level.
Okay.
You have to move it around a little bit. Otherwise, they would just get people bidding $1 in $1 increments until they hit the hot spot,
Right, that's okay. Got it.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they have to mix it up that way. So one thing that you can do, say you really want to stay in a 4 or 5 star property, which is, those are the ones that I like to stay in. 3.5 is actually nice through Priceline as well. Those include like the Marriott Residence Inn, which I think is one of the better places to stay. You actually get like a little apartment. I love Residence Inn. But so let's say you really want to stay in that 4 to 5 star range, and your bid wasn't accepted. choose a neighborhood, because you have to add a neighborhood in order to bid again. Choose a neighborhood where you know there are no 4 or 5 star hotels. Then you won't accidentally get that neighborhood. So
That is tricky.
yes. So what you do is, say you really want to stay on the Embarcadero. So you choose a 4-star property is the Hyatt Regency that's right there by the
Okay.
Ferry Plaza. Okay, so and that comes up through Priceline quite a bit. I've stayed there 3 or
Okay.
4 times for less than $100.
So if you don't get it the first time,
If you don't get it the first time, choose a property that's still within San Francisco, but you know there's no 4-star hotels there.
in that area.
Yes, and
Okay.
one way to check that is to go to the regular side of Priceline. And
Look at the list of hotels.
look at the list of hotels. If you don't see any 4-star hotels listed there, then there are no 4-star hotels that could possibly be part of that bidding process. So then click that extra neighborhood.
So it gives you another shot at your first round of choices.
Yeah. So if you bid too low, this gives you an opportunity to bump it up by $10 or $20 or so.
And that way you're not overbidding. You're just slowly getting closer to the
Right.
to your mark without not
That-
overpaying.
And I've used that several times, and it and it works. A couple of freebies I want to tell you about include the National Park Service has a free entrance day coming up on September the 29th. It is National Public Lands Day. There are 4 periods throughout the year where you can have free access to the national
Okay.
parks. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend in January, National Park Week in April.
Okay.
June has a Get Outdoors Day. Then we have September 29th, National Public Lands Day. I'm sorry, there's 5 different periods. Then in November, Veterans Day weekend.
Oh,
So-
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's not overly expensive to enter a national park, but it's not inexpensive either.
Right, that's a
So,
little incentive to if you're thinking I want to take a trip and do that.
Yeah.
Go on the free weekend.
And, they've closed down the area at Yosemite National Park that had the hantavirus
Right.
the virus
They're
in there.
dealing with that issue.
So if you can take advantage of other people's squeamishness of going to Yosemite, now might be the time. You can get both a reservation. Plus, we're outside the summer season.
Right. Get into that slower time.
Yeah, and so September 29th, you might want to consider that
Good
date.
information.
Also, if you're a KOA member, their big appreciation day is on Friday, September the 14th. It's free to stay at a KOA.
Oh,
All right,
cool.
stick around, everyone. A full hour of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio coming up next on this Sunday morning. Great to have you joining us. Catch you in just a moment. The Eat, Drink, Explore Radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly.
You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. Now here's the host of our show, Mr. Randall White.
And a good morning, everyone. 9 o'clock the time. Hello, San Luis Obispo County. Patty Pyburn joining me here. You know her lovely face from television and radio. And, I'm your host, Randall White. And you know who you just heard there was Kira Clapper, our good friend.
Lovely Kira Clapper.
If you remember Kira from doing the news here on the Central Coast, you can catch her on ABC7 now in San Francisco. She went up to Chico, where she was an anchor for a while.
Yeah.
And then she got a job at ABC7, and
She's
doing
moving on up.
Oh, she's doing so, and I see her posting things on Facebook, and they're putting her on some fantastic pieces.
Yeah, and she's great at what she does.
I need to let you know that this hour of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio on Crush 92.5 is sponsored by Kelly's at the Grill at Hunter Ranch Golf Course, one of the best kept restaurant secrets on the Central Coast. Open 7 days a week for breakfast and lunch, happy hour from 3 to 6, and dinner Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you know what they have on Sunday? A bottomless mimosa brunch. So if you don't have your brunch plans in order, or even if you do, cancel those reservations and head on over to Kelly's at the Grill at Hunter Ranch Golf Course, located on 46 East past Airport Road in Paso Robles. Hey, later this hour, we will be speaking with a woman who is one of the main sources in the state to find out about turning seawater into drinkable water, because water is always an issue for us here in California. But that's not the only way to go about solving the problem. There is one aspect of this is being worked on by the brains at Cal Poly.
That's right. You know, I just covered this story this week. They just unveiled this huge project at Cal Poly at the Beef Unit. So this is off of Highway 1 there. And it's a large-scale project. So rainwater harvesting isn't new, but at this scale, I think this is one of the largest projects in the country. It was paid for, in large part, NOAA used a lot of the money that it got from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, so stimulus money. The California Conservation Corps built the project. It's 4 huge tanks. And the water off just this small, really, when you look at the campus of Cal Poly, this is small, just a few rooftops at the Beef Unit, collect rainwater, funnel it down into these 4 huge storage tanks with a capacity of near 300,000 gallons. So,
wow.
Yeah, this will mean the Beef Unit, which it does what is a typical ag practice to use riparian wells along this creek, which is part of the Morro Bay watershed. They won't use as much of that water now. That will keep the creek levels up, which will help the threatened steelhead trout. So that's a plus. They're going to have water on hand for the dry season, the drought, which, you know, if we know that's a common problem for California. During the dry months is when they have like 200 bulls at the Beef Unit. So they need that water to sustain the cattle. So it's just a win-win-win-win-win.
Right.
And what was really cool is some of the young people who were working on the project now, with this training through the California Conservation Corps, were offered great jobs in other sustainable projects because of the skills that they learned during this one. It's just one of my favorite stories I've ever covered.
Well, they're really learning something that is now and the future. Whereas sometimes we've seen it, Patty, in college curriculum. Sadly, the colleges are behind the time, and education is so key when it's, you know, when you keep up in this fast-paced environment.
So one thing to add, the purpose of this is of course to help the Beef Unit, but to be a model for people to see what they can do with rainwater harvesting. So landowners, farmers, growers, ranchers are invited to come and check this out and see how they can do it on their property. And it's estimated that they have 4 tanks, but one of these huge tanks that holds about 70 to 80,000 gallons of water would cost a landowner about $30,000 to buy the tank, $30,000 to install it. So it doesn't have to be on such a large scale as what Cal Poly did, but can really change their water supply, especially during the dry season.
Wow, that's impressive.
Awesome.
And so they just contact the ag department there at Cal Poly for
That's
a tour?
The Beef Unit at Cal Poly.
Impressive. I love it, Patty. That
Yes.
you can tell when she's all fired up
I
about
love
a
it.
story that she did. I'm fired up about this final hour of the show. Our compass word is C, S-E-A, and my favorite part of the compass hour is our compass trivia. That's coming up next. Stick around, everyone. You're listening to Eat, Drink, Explore Radio on this Sunday morning.
Eat, Drink, Explore Media is your lifestyle information source. Our focus, food, wine, craft beer, travel, and tourism trends, with a slant towards sustainable and healthy options. Whether it's hot deals or tips for hotels and flights, an update on what's currently fresh at your local farmer's market, or the latest restaurant and beverage news, we've got you covered from 8 to 10 each and every Saturday morning. Live on Crush 92.5 in San Luis Obispo County and online at eatdrinkexplore.com. Also, check out our new free smartphone and tablet app. Simply search 3 words, Eat, Drink, Explore, either in Google Play on your Android device or in the App Store on your iPhone or iPad. This free app gives you access to contests, past radio segments, our Facebook and Twitter feeds, and you can watch live video of the radio broadcast while listening to it here on The Crush. Eat, Drink, Explore Media, your source for the lifestyle you love.
You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network, coming to you live every Sunday morning from the fabulous state of California. Now it's time to kick off the Compass Hour. Let's give it up for the always insightful Mr. Randall White.
And a very good morning, everyone. Okay, pipe down, pipe down. What would I do without a canned audience applause?
Right.
9:06 the time. Great to have you with us, everyone. I am Randall White, coming to you live from the Central Coast here. Patty Pyburn, my wonderful, lovely co-host here as well. And we have quite an hour straight ahead for you. It is our Compass Hour. And today's word is sea. S-E-A.
As in ocean. Sea.
As in ocean, exactly.
Okay.
And so everything about this next hour will revolve around that word sea. And this hour of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio is brought to you by Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September 27th through the 30th. So it's just a few weeks away. It culminates California Wine Month, which I have personally been celebrating. In fact, I tried a new great place. I don't have it right in front of me here, but it's over on a new grape place. Yes.
Did you say Alegria?
Alegria, yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you. On Choro there at Palm. And really, the owners were super personable and just a nice atmosphere when you walk in. So you might want to try that one out. Okay, part of our Compass Hour includes the Compass Trivia, and that's where Patty and I smack it down right now.
Head to head.
Head to head, exactly. I need to find my trivia thing here, Patty. So
Would you like me to ask you a question first while you find your trivia?
I am going to have you ask. Oh, here it is. Okay, yes. So fire away. I'm gonna. And by the way, we're pretty much tied so far
Are
when
we?
it comes
Okay.
to who's answered the most right questions. Last week
Okay.
we were dead even. So,
Right. All right. So we're starting out even. Here goes.
Yes.
The Earth's oceans,
Okay.
all of them
Yes.
cover an area larger than Pluto, the Moon, Jupiter, Mars.
I will say surface larger than the moon.
Yes, you're right. The
Oh,
Moon.
really?
Yes. Pluto is
Okay.
smaller than the Moon, so it's larger than the Moon. Yay,
I got
Randall!
that right. I
Woo!
love it.
Good
Thank you.
guess.
All right. Here's mine. While the terms ocean and sea are often used interchangeably, there is a difference between the two terms when speaking of geography. What is the main difference, Miss Patty?
And I should know. I just kind of breezed right by that when I was looking up one of my trivia questions.
Ocean and sea, two terms, interchangeable. The main difference is seas are smaller than oceans and are usually
That
located...
seemed too obvious.
Right, where land and ocean meet. Typically, seas are partially enclosed by
Okay.
land. Think of like the Mediterranean Sea.
Got it. Okay. Are you ready? This is about seafood.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's a true or false, so you got a 50-50 chance.
Okay.
Buying frozen seafood can be a better choice for the environment, and this is according to the National Geographic website.
Okay.
So, is buying frozen seafood better?
I started the music too soon. I have a little
that's
more
okay.
time to think about it than that. I will say that buying frozen seafood is not.
Actually, according to National Geographic, it is better
Okay.
for the environment and the fishermen than getting fresh caught seafood.
And why is that?
Apparently, the storage makes it more economical and a better price point.
Oh, okay. Huh.
So
interesting. I wouldn't have thought
they don't
that.
explain past that, but this is
Yeah.
I think National Geographic is a pretty reliable source.
Oh, in fact, I use National Geographic for my next one here.
Okay.
The Gulf of California, the long, narrow body of water that separates the Baja Peninsula from Mexico's mainland. You're familiar with the Gulf of California? When
Yes.
we were in Cabo San Lucas together, that's where the Pacific Ocean meets the Gulf of California.
Okay.
That's the dividing point.
Okay.
It's also known by another name. What?
It is known by another name,
Then, yeah, the Gulf of California has another very common name.
not the Gulf of California.
Well, think about our keyword or our compass word.
The Sea of California.
Very close. The Sea of Cortez. Yes.
Oh, the Sea of Cortez. Of course.
That's, yeah. Well, yeah, of course now. Right?
I knew that. Okay.
So where are we right now? I don't think either of us have gotten one right, have we?
No, you got the first one right. You said the bigger than the moon, and that was
Oh,
right.
you're right. Okay, so I have to write this down.
Yes.
I have one.
You have one, I have
has,
zero. Big fat zero.
Zero.
All right.
Okay.
How many pounds of wild fish and shellfish are removed from the seas every year?
And this includes the world's oceans and seas.
Yes,
Okay.
all the seas
All the seafood. How many pounds?
of wild fish and shellfish.
Is it in tons?
It is in pounds.
I'm going to say 1 billion pounds.
170 billion.
170 billion?
Yes, roughly 3 times the weight of every man, woman, and child in the U.S.
Whoa.
Wow is right. 170 billion pounds.
That's a lot of seafood.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. I had no idea. Holy mackerel.
Holy
That was-
mackerel.
I said that for the hell of it. Okay, so but I need a rim shot on here.
Yes.
It's one of my sound effects. All right, so here we go, Patty. Seawater is the ocean is. Let me start this over. Seawater. Seawater. Thank you. In the world's oceans has remarkably consistent salinity, meaning wherever you are on the planet, the salinity level of the seawater
It
is
doesn't
about
change
the
much.
same.
Okay.
What is the average salt content? Less than 1%, between 3 and 4%, exactly 7.2%.
7.2%.
You're just going to
I'm just going to go for it.
I thought I might trick her with that exactly word. I like that.
Because I think there's a limit. Then the salt doesn't, it can't be dissolved in the water, right?
Yeah.
There's a saturation point.
Sorry, Patty, you
No?
didn't get it right. No.
Darn it.
No,
Is it 3 and 4?
It's between 3 and 4%.
Okay. Darn it.
With the lowest concentrations being near the poles and the highest concentration in the mid-Atlantic, Red, and Mediterranean seas. In fact, the
Okay.
Red Sea, I think, has the highest concentration of all. I forget what it is exactly, but I got that from seafriends.org out of New Zealand. They had a lot of really good information about the seas on there. All right, Patty, so we do have time, so you can get to your
Okay,
fourth
bonus
question.
question.
Bonus question.
How much of the world's seafood is produced by fish farms? This is National Geographic again. How much of the world's seafood is produced by fish farms?
Okay, so farmed fish, you see it more and more in the stores, of course, in other countries and stuff. I'll say 25%.
Half. Although National Geographic says National Geographic says all fish farms are not equal. They're not all truly sustainable, but they are producing half of the world's fish supply at this point.
Sometimes, if you check the Monterey Bay Aquarium's Seafood Watch program, which
great.
has a terrific app for your smartphone or tablet device for when you're out there shopping, because not everyone carries the little booklet with them, but you almost always have your phone with you. So check it out. From time to time, the recommended fish is one that comes from that's farmed.
Right.
Because it depends. Sometimes farmed fish can be high in specifically metals, I think, heavy metals. And it's because of the feed that they're eating. But in other cases, that's not, the farmed fish is the better, healthier choice for the planet and for you. So Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch program. All right, stick around, everyone, because coming up next, we will be learning about seaweed.
Ooh,
That's right,
fun.
seaweed, and how you can incorporate it into your diet. We're back in just a moment.
It's time to channel your inner cowboy or cowgirl with a bit of rustic elegance thrown in for an upcoming culinary experience in Paso Robles at Windfall Farms, an exclusive community that promotes and enhances the sustainability of local agriculture and celebrates equestrian, ranch, and agrarian lifestyles. The Paso Glow event is taking place Saturday evening, September the 29th, from 6 to 10 on the final night of this year's Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September 27th through the 30th, to culminate California Wine Month. The event will wow you with ranch-inspired delicacies prepared by the area's top chefs, the region's best wines, and the warm glow of many illuminated hot air balloons. To purchase tickets and for a full listing of activities, head to savorcentralcoast.com. During its heyday in the 1920s and 30s, San Luis Obispo County's Hearst Castle saw many a lavish party, attended by the rich and famous. Now you too can head to the castle for a once-in-a-lifetime experience featuring local, farm-inspired cuisine to celebrate the rich history of locavore living that Mr. Hearst pioneered in the region as you sip wine and sample fresh seafood, locally grown produce, and meats from nearby farmers and ranchers. Eco-friendly wine lovers will appreciate the vine to glass theme carried throughout the event, featuring the best vintages from the region. It's part of opening night for this year's Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September 27th through the 30th, to culminate California Wine Month. To purchase tickets and for a full listing of activities, head to savorcentralcoast.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. Good Sunday morning, everyone. 9:19 the time. Really a beautiful day shaping up all along the California coastline. Shouldn't be unbearably hot inland either, mid-90s. Might be a little sticky in some areas, though, of Southern California, even up into the central portion as air from Mexico moves up. Dry lightning could be an issue. Flash flooding could be an issue for the mountains of Southern California, right? Patty Pyburn?
That is right. And we are still in peak fire season, so there's always that concern when you have the thunderstorms in the forecast that it could spark a fire. So if you're out there recreating, be especially careful
Right, and I think some gusty winds, too, in some areas could kick up. So if you get that combination of dry lightning, it sparks something, and then with the wind,
Right.
we could find it's September, October. This is the, like you said, peak fire season for us here in California. Even though several years ago, Governor Schwarzenegger announced there is no longer a fire season, and it's just peak fire season year-round. Right?
Yes.
But we still know that it is certainly worse in other times of the year, like right now. So my good friend and colleague Patty Pyburn is and has been for many, many years a giant fan of sushi.
Yes.
I am a latecomer to sushi. Surprisingly, even as a child, I was introduced to it. I was introduced to fresh, and when I say freshly caught, I mean freshly caught sashimi right out of the Pacific Ocean by my dad and his good friend Kaz. Would go out fishing, and then they'd come back to the house. They'd cut it up right there on it. We had one of those big
Can't get
center
much
blocks.
fresher than that.
No. And then they'd mix up the wasabi, and just sit there, this is so delicious,
And you're like, ugh.
raw fish, Dad, and like go running. And I don't know why I kept that in my head until my early 20s. And then this is the honest truth. I was the designated driver, and I was in a car accident coming back from the Napa Valley. The police didn't believe me because the car smelled like wine because everyone else had been drinking.
Your passengers.
But fortunately, the blood test, proved me right.
Right,
Which
right.
I was still a little bit mad about that situation because I was really treated poorly when I had hit my head on the steering wheel.
And you were probably not clear.
I wasn't clear, and they asked me what day it was. I didn't know, and that sort of thing. So then they proceeded to treat me poorly all the way to the hospital.
Until they found out that you really were not under the influence.
Which was a long time later because they had to wait for the blood tests to come back. But at any rate, I digress. It was that night that everyone had to watch me in case of a concussion.
Right.
So because I really was kind of out of it still, I didn't have a say in it, and we went to sushi. And I didn't want to go to sushi. But I don't know if it was because of the bonk on the head or what. I started eating it and really enjoyed it. And I'm like, this is what I've been missing all this time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've been a big fan ever since. A big component to sushi is seaweed. And I think that's not just the raw fish, but I think the seaweed turns people away too that aren't
seaweed paper, they're like, ugh.
Right.
Yeah. Or seaweed salad, which I love.
Seaweed salad, or one of my favorites to start the whole meal off is the miso soup, which comes with little pieces of seaweed in it. And
it's very good for you.
It's really good for you. It's high in nutrients for sure. And it's one of those extremely sustainable crops. Off the coast of California, we have large kelp beds, I guess they would call it. Is there a difference between kelp and seaweed?
Honestly, I don't know. I know there's different kinds because I have bought some from Asian markets before. So I'm not really sure.
There are people listening right now screaming at their radio,
going,
yes, there is, or no, there's not, whatever it may
Don't
be.
you know?
If you happen to be near a computer and you can answer that question for us.
Have you seen the roasted seaweed snacks? I think you can get them at Trader Joe's and Costco. I've seen them, and they're little dried seaweed snacks.
Oh, really?
And if you like seaweed and you're looking for a healthy, crunchy, salty, kind of, you want potato chips, but you don't want to eat them.
Yeah.
The seaweed snacks are a great stand-in for that.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yes.
Hold on one second here. I'm logging into radio at eatdrinkexplore.com.
Okay.
That's radio at eatdrinkexplore.com if you can help Patty and me out when it comes to...
Let us know the finer points of the types of kelp and seaweed.
Well, we hopefully, are we any more successful at getting our guests on the line? Do you know? No. Oh, well, that's too bad because we were going to speak with the man behind Strong Arm Farm. This is in Sonoma County, and they harvest a type of seaweed off the coast of Sonoma. And then sell it at the local farmers markets in Sonoma County. Which
That's so cool.
I know, and I really wanted to learn about this seaweed. And so Scott, I believe it's Nippelmeyer, was going to tell us a little bit about that. And I think his website, as a matter of fact, let me just go to Strong Arm Farm here really fast.
Randall,
has
I'm
a
looking
page.
at a little bit of information about seaweed while you're looking at the Strong Arm Farm website. Seaweed is one of those complete proteins. When you eat it,
Oh.
you're getting everything all in one.
I never thought of it for a protein source, but here in the United States, we don't use it much. But in Asia, seaweed is
Really
staple,
commonly used,
especially
yes.
in Japan. And so the Strong Arm Farm website does have a little bit about their sustainably harvest Sonoma Coast seaweed, saying that, like you said, Patty, it's incredibly nutritional. And it's in abundance right off the coast. It flourishes, and as a matter of fact, in the icy waters. As you know, tourists come to California all the time thinking they're going to frolic in these warm Hawaiian-type waters.
cold water.
It is anything but.
Yes.
Very cold, but apparently great for growing certain types of seaweed that they harvest. And then, like I said, make available at the Healdsburg Market. We just talked about Healdsburg on last week's show. Sebastopol, they're at that market as well. Petaluma, Santa Rosa. Those are the ones that I see listed here. None of those fall within our direct radio listening area, but I believe you can order their products online, which is strongarmfarm.com. You can find a link to Strong Arm Farm. That's just not easy to say. At eatdrinkexplore.com under our program summaries page.
Right. I am a big fan of the seaweed. I mean, I love sushi, so I eat it in all forms in sushi, but I am a big fan of those seaweed snacks. You should try them, Randall.
They're salty?
They are salty, crunchy, kind of a roasted, nutty flavor.
Oh, that sounds good. Like
spicy wasabi.
Yes.
Our audio guy Anthony was just saying that you can get them with like wasabi flavor,
some different
spices,
flavors. I know Trader Joe's. I know they sell them in a big pack at Costco. Where have you found them? Costco.
I get the big pack at Costco.
Okay.
The flavored
Big
ones
pack.
you can buy individually.
That's what
Okay.
I thought. Yeah. So that's a good healthy snack to check out.
Clearly,
if you
I'm
want
going
an
to have to
alternative.
try this. I don't know how I didn't even know about the.
Really, Randall.
You know, yeah.
I should brought one from home.
So sadly, we're not going to be able to speak with Scott. We're just getting the thumbs down from our producer Cora Adama. Cora, thank you for your efforts to try. We had both of his contact numbers, but
Not able to get him on the phone. Randall, going back to what you were saying about your introduction to sushi, that you were watching your dad prepare it.
Yeah.
Maybe that had something to do with, if you hadn't seen where it came from and you just were served it as a child, that could have had a different.
because your kids will eat it.
They will. They never saw it being prepared.
Yeah.
They just saw it being served on a plate, and they ate it as toddlers and never questioned. And raw fish, raw octopus, fish eggs, you name it, and they love it.
Will they eat
They
the
eat the
seaweed
seaweed salad. They eat it all.
Wow.
Yes.
So, okay.
But again, they just saw it served on a plate. They didn't get to see the behind the scenes. That might have been one of your problems.
That might have been one of the problems. All right, so Patty, we still have the C is our SEA is our compass word, and I think we spoke almost as intelligently on seaweed as we could have had we
As best we could.
had a guest on the show. Our next segment is of great interest to me because I grew up in California at a time when we had an extreme drought in the mid to late 70s, and then another one hit again in the 80s, and that's locked in my head. How do we get around this water situation? And I always thought, we have this huge ocean right off the coast here. Why don't we turn seawater into fresh water, which can be done, but there's some issues with it too. We will explore those with one of the leaders in this field who has a lot of information on it, and that is coming up right after the break here at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to Eat, Drink, Explore Radio on this Sunday morning, 9:28 the time. Hope your day's off to a great start. Back in a moment.
The historic Santa Margarita Ranch, exactly halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles off Highway 101, was founded in the mid-1700s and served as an assistant mission to the nearby mission in San Luis Obispo. The 14,000 acres that make up the ranch today have served a variety of purposes over the years, including grazing land for large herds of Mexican cattle, prime vineyard land, and this fall will once again host the main event for for Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September the 27th through the 30th, to culminate California Wine Month. Meet top chefs from the Central Coast as well as nationally recognized culinary celebrities. Several chef demonstrations will be featured, including the Battle of the Bay, hosted by the Food Network's Ted Allen of Chopped. To purchase tickets, head to savorcentralcoast.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly.
Welcome back to the Eat, Drink, Explore radio network. Here now is your fabulous host, Mr. Randall White.
And a very good morning to you. 9:33 the time now on this beautiful Sunday. A gorgeous day to explore the state of California and all it has to offer. As Patty and I mentioned earlier in the show, there is some fire concern around the state today. Dry lightning may spark off some wildfires. We certainly hope not, but moisture moving up from Mexico could create flash flooding in the mountains of Southern California. In other areas, it could be dry lightning, which is not good because there's no rain to put it out.
And some windy conditions.
Exactly. So we are in the dry season for sure. California has that Mediterranean climate. We go months on end without a drop of rain in many cases. We wait around until October, November before we get our first storms that roll through. And then if we're lucky, the storm door opens, as the meteorologists say, and we have a series of storms that hit mainly December, January, February, and then start to taper off as we head in through spring. And then it can be dry from end of May all the way through late September, early October. So we're used to it because we live through it. However, if that storm door does not open, then we find ourselves, as we did this past winter, with very dry conditions. And we were lucky. We got some rain. It didn't fall in its normal pattern. January was extremely dry. But then in the spring, we picked up a bit, which was good. We got some of that much-needed snow in the Sierra that is money in the bank. And but we did not hit a what would be considered a normal year, I guess. But we did have an extremely wet year the year before, so we were in a good place for all of that. However, California has experienced severe drought over the years, including in the mid to late 70s. I remember that all too well. And then we had things like stickers on the toilet that said "Blush, don't flush,"
Right.
And and little things like that. And so over time, people learned to conserve water. Low flow shower heads.
Right.
I moved to the Midwest and brought my low flow shower heads with me because when I moved into my apartment, I couldn't believe the torrent of water that was coming out
Right.
of this shower head, and I thought I just wasn't used to it, and I felt wasteful.
Don't you people conserve water around here?
It takes a lot of energy to make water and to ship it around and get it from A to B where it might be stored to your faucet. So it's not just about how much water you have. There's energy involved
Right.
as well.
And you were mentioning here in California, we go through these droughts, and yet we're right on the coast. And
Right. You look at all this water and you think, how can we be a drought-ridden state?
so, the famous rhyme of the Ancient Mariner? Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. That's what you think of when you look at the ocean, and you think, but we're not using it.
Right, because it's full of salt. But there are ways where you can remove the salt from the water. They're called desalination plants. Desalination has been around for centuries. And to speak about this topic is Heather Cooley with the Pacific Institute. She has put together a number of papers over the years addressing this topic from all angles. Some people like what she has to say, other people don't. But as I have looked at her information, it seems pretty well balanced. I think she's really looking at every angle of it, and she joins us right now live on the phone. Hi, Heather.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. Thank you. And I saw a report by the Pacific Institute that came out this summer regarding the state of desalination projects in California. And I was stunned by the number that are planned, I guess you would say, for the Central Coast.
Yes, there are a number of plants, about 17 plants proposed for the California coast, and then 2 plants proposed that are in Mexico, but that would provide water for the Californians.
Currently operating desalination plants in California are far and few between right now and not very large.
That's correct. We have a couple of very small plants, mostly designed for industrial purposes, so for power plants or for other sorts of industrial facilities. We have 1 or 2 plants that are designed for meeting drinking water needs for sort of residential communities. There is one specifically in Sand City that was recently constructed and built, one down in Avalon on Catalina Island. We have built plants here in California. Back in the previous drought in 1992, we built a plant in Santa Barbara. That plant was successfully completed. It was able to make water, to produce water, but the rain started as soon as the plant was completed, and that plant was never actually used. It was just put into long-term standby mode.
Is the desalination plant still working at the Monterey Bay Aquarium?
Yes, there is one there. It provides a small amount of water, mostly for flushing toilets and for other purposes around the aquarium.
Now, Heather, some people look at the information that you provide and tag you as an opponent to desalination, but you don't like that title.
No, I don't. I think there are issues associated with seawater desalination. I think there are some advantages and some disadvantages, and I think it's important that we talk about what those are and ensure that we're building plants that are appropriate, that are appropriately designed and appropriately sited. And so I think it's important to understand what these issues are and to make our decisions based on the best available information.
So, Heather, I believe Cambria here along the Central Coast is one of the places that has talked about, proposed a plan for, they have some water issues up there, so they proposed the desalination plant. What seems to be the obstacles for these communities to get that process moving forward? I just feel like that's been something that's been talked about for such a long time.
So there are a range of issues, and it varies depending on where you are in the state. There are plants that are currently permitted but have not been built, and the issues there are more around financing. Desalination plants are expensive, and so it can be difficult to get all of the money in place, essentially. In other communities, at least in the short term, there isn't as much of a need at this time. The economic downturn combined with some of the conservation and efficiency improvements that have been achieved in the past couple of years have depressed demand. So in many cases, communities have enough water for now, and so many communities are more in the planning phases. So I mentioned that there were 17 proposed in the California coast. Those are at various stages. Some are in more of the, doing the pre-feasibility studies. Others are more actively doing the environmental impact reports and are seeking permits.
Is there a concern that if we have water now, so people aren't really aggressively moving forward with an alternative like desalination, is there a concern that when it becomes an issue, we're not going to be ready for it if another drought happens?
Well, desalination plants can be built fairly quickly, and so it's important that communities plan for it and begin thinking about when they're going to need it. But I think the question of when and how are important questions. Again, I think planning is important, but when the plant needs to be built, it can be built relatively quickly.
Now, Heather, once the plant is up and running, there are a few issues there as well, right? They're expensive to run primarily because of energy, if I understand correctly, the energy to process the water, and then there are some environmental concerns?
Yes, that's correct. So desalination plants use a large amounts of energy. In fact, they're among the most energy-intensive water supply that available. And so because of that, they produce greenhouse gas emissions, which of course are a concern because of climate change. It also, though, increases vulnerability to energy price increases over time, both short-term and long-term. So typically in California, we do produce electricity using hydropower. So if there is a drought, generally energy prices go up, and that can, in the short term, increase the cost for seawater desalination. In addition, as we are starting to put on some of the more expensive energy sources, that can increase long-term energy costs and, again, raise the price of seawater desalination.
And it takes chemicals to process this water completely, and then once you remove all the salt and all that sort of thing, that has to get dumped back into the ocean with these chemicals. That's another one of the environmental problems?
Yes, so there are environmental concerns both in the withdrawal of seawater from the ocean and the disposal of the brine. So in terms of the withdrawal, water is taken into a desalination plant, and small organisms can pass through the intake screens and are killed during the desalination process. Larger marine organisms can get caught on the intake screens and can be killed. So those impacts are referred to as impingement and entrainment.
But there's also some environmental positives, right?
Potentially. There is the opportunity, some have argued, for returning water to rivers and streams that we have withdrawn too much water from in the past, and so a potential to restore those systems. Unfortunately, there aren't very many legal mechanisms to ensure that actually occurs. There are cases, for example, on the Carmel River, where there's a requirement to return water to the stream there, and therefore any water produced, whether it be through conservation, recycled water, or desalination, would on a one-to-one basis reduce withdrawals of water from that river. And so in that case, there can be an environmental benefit.
So one of the concerns that you were talking about a few moments ago is the energy that is needed to run a desalination plant. So is there any thought to make it a partnership with solar power? Is solar power something that would give off enough energy to run or even help run a desalination plant?
Definitely. There are ways of powering desalination using renewable energy systems, either through solar or, I've seen more commonly, through wind power. Australia is an example. Australia experienced some very severe droughts over the past 10 years, did build desalination plants. They were concerned about the greenhouse gas emissions and therefore powered some of their desalination plants using wind from a nearby wind farm.
Oh, that's great. Heather Cooley with Pacific Institute. Lots of great information. I highly recommend people watch the YouTube video of you online, and we'll put a link to it on the Eat, Drink, Explore website where you address all of these things and more. Heather Cooley, Pacific Institute, thank you so much for joining us to talk desalination today.
Thank you.
And we're back in just a moment. It's Coastal Cleanup time once again. It's time to channel your inner cowboy or cowgirl with a bit of rustic elegance thrown in for an upcoming culinary experience in Paso Robles at Windfall Farms, an exclusive community that promotes and enhances the sustainability of local agriculture and celebrates equestrian, ranch, and agrarian lifestyles. The Paso Glow event is taking place Saturday evening, September the 29th, from 6 to 10 on the final night of this year's Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September 27th through the 30th, to culminate California Wine Month. The event will wow you with ranch-inspired delicacies prepared by the area's top chefs, the region's best wines, and the warm glow of many illuminated hot air balloons. To purchase tickets and for a full listing of activities, head to savorcentralcoast.com. The historic Santa Margarita Ranch, exactly halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles off Highway 101, was founded in the mid-1700s and served as an assistant mission to the nearby mission in San Luis Obispo. The 14,000 acres that make up the ranch today have served a variety of purposes over the years, including grazing land for large herds of Mexican cattle, prime vineyard land, and this fall will once again host the main event for Sunset Savor the Central Coast, the West Coast premier food and wine event, September the 27th through the 30th, to culminate California Wine Month. Meet top chefs from the Central Coast as well as nationally recognized culinary celebrities. Several chef demonstrations will be featured, including the Battle of the Bay, hosted by the Food Network's Ted Allen of Chopped. To purchase tickets, head to savorcentralcoast.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore.
Hello, this is Kylie.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break. We will be back shortly. Get the latest audio, video, and breaking news from Eat, Drink, Explore Media by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're easy to find. The URL extension for all of those sites is simply Eat, Drink, Explore. Thank you for your patience. The Eat, Drink, Explore radio show is currently in a local commercial break and will be back on the air shortly. And a very good Sunday morning to you. It is September the 9th, 2012, 9:49 the time. The final segment of our Compass Hour show. The word this hour is sea, S-E-A. And when you think of the sea, you think of beaches for sure. And some of our beaches here in California can get kind of nasty with trash and stuff that washes up that we had nothing to do with.
Right. It isn't necessarily that people who visit the beach are being litter bugs. It's what's coming to our beaches.
And it can come from a couple of different directions. It can wash there down a storm drain when people are, cleaning out their driveway or something.
The runoff.
The runoff goes into those. You see those stamps that are right above storm drains that say this leads to the ocean.
Think about what you're throwing away.
Right. And then also, we were just talking during the commercial break, you had the giant tsunami that happened in Japan more than a year ago.
Right.
We're just now starting to see some of that trash wash up, right?
Yeah, and I'm wondering, too, if this is also hearkening back to the Indonesian tsunami. We'll find out from our expert.
We will. In fact, our expert is Heather Cooley with the Pacific... is Kylie Singh. I'm on the wrong one here. Kylie Singh from EcoSlow here in San Luis Obispo, one of many organizations throughout the state of California who are putting together a wide variety of events for cleaning up our beaches. And it's not just the beaches that happen to be located at the ocean either, right, Kylie?
No, all over the waterways. There's 53 counties throughout California that are hosting California Cleanup, coastal cleanup. And so that means we're going all up into Mono County, Siskiyou County. I mean, it's all over California now.
And there's one specific day, correct, that's considered California Coastal Cleanup Day, but the events are spread out a little bit?
Yes, September 15th this year is Coastal Cleanup Day, and that actually is an international event. And then California Coastal Commission hosts Coast Week. So if you can't make it out this Saturday, you can help out on Coast Week however you would like. And it's a great way to get involved on your coast. There's all kinds of activities. There's yacht club activities. There's kayak activities. There's invasive removal activities. There's so many great activities.
And so when we're out there cleaning up, the volunteers, what can we expect? What are we picking up? What are we seeing?
Well, I have a great list. I mean, last year we had 35% of the debris removed was cigarette butts.
35%. That many people are still smoking in California?
Yes, and on our beaches, even though it's illegal.
Right. Wow.
So it's interesting. But you have to remember that it's not necessarily people smoking on our beaches. It's people smoking on the streets and washing into the beaches.
Or throwing it out their car window, or or stepping on it on the
Right.
sidewalk. And I see it all the time, and I think, how is that not littering?
Right.
They're
Right.
doing it.
Right. Like you said, all drains lead to the ocean. So.
Yeah. And so 35%. What's the second most common item found?
The second most common is food wrappers, which actually leads us to the reason why Coast Commission is really trying to push this BYO campaign, Bring Your Own. So trying to make coastal cleanup the most eco-groovy event as possible. So bringing a non-wasteful lunch, packing your stuff in a Tupperware, bringing your clean canteen.
Yeah.
And
we're showing them to the cameras if you're watching if you're watching us online.
And one of the most important things to bring on the day of the event is a bucket or some type of reusable bag, so that as you're cleaning up trash, you can dump that bucket into a bigger trash bag. So we're eliminating the plastic bags as well.
We have a picture on our stream that we got from the California Coastal Cleanup 2011 site, and it showed on, I think it's the Kern River or something right outside of Fresno, these guys in a boat with giant tires that they,
Yes.
so someone just thought it was a good idea to go ahead and throw tires in the river, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the things you find in the creeks. My good friend works here, and he's a fish biologist who works on San Luis Obispo County creeks, and he finds bicycles, he finds irrigation pipeline, he finds all sorts of things you would never imagine. So it's really interesting.
Is this something that you need to sign up in advance and fill out paperwork, or is it something where you can just show up day of?
We like both of it. We love to have your information ahead of time so we can send you reminders. Every county throughout California has a coordinator. I'm here for SLO County, and then up in Santa Cruz and Monterey counties, we have Save Our Shores. It's a combined effort. And so the best thing to do is contact your coordinator via website or give them a phone call, and go ahead and sign up ahead of time, and they can remind you to bring your own, or just show up. If you want to just show up, we'll get all your information that day.
So it's BYOB, bring your own bucket.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I was watching a couple of years ago one of the coastal cleanups that I was actually up near Los Gatos, and they were more inland, not at the coast. And one of the workers was collecting, and they had like a safety vest on, and he was shoving it inside his vest so that he didn't use a plastic bag. And then he was going to the receptacle and then taking it all out of his vest and putting it in there. I thought, well, that is dedication.
I would imagine that there is a bit of concern over some of the items that might get picked up, like used medical waste and needles and such.
You know, well, this year is especially important to remember if you do see something that might be potentially brought over from Japan, to stay away from them. There's certain things you do have to take caution with. The medical waste we don't see as much on the beaches, but more so in the creeks. Okay. But the tsunami debris is something that we're really trying to focus on this year as well. California is trying to create a baseline of what we have and what we're going to see in the coming months. So Coast Commission has actually created a data card. We use a data card every year no matter what to collect information of what's on the beaches and in our waterways. But this year we'll really have a separate data card that looks at what could potentially be from Japan.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which is, yeah.
To track a bit of that.
And you were saying even into the future, you're expecting more in the next year.
Right. It's actually interesting because scientists were predicting that it wouldn't be coming until mid-2013, but they weren't focusing in on the winds that were going to carry a lot of this debris across.
Oh, okay.
And places like Oregon and Washington have seen huge chunks of debris. I believe a Harley-Davidson motorcycle washed up in Canada, and a whole dock washed up in Oregon. So, and the dock is a really scary thing because that brings over invasive species. So it's another thing we have to think about.
Wow.
Right.
Now, what about the previous Indonesian tsunami? I know there was debris from that for quite a while. Has that dissipated, or is that still a concern?
You know, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if the currents would have even brought debris over to California. That's something I'm not positive on.
Now, a lot of people would think, how on earth does a Harley Davidson float?
Right.
But it was in a container, if I remember correctly.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Wow.
So someone had, kept their Harley in a container, and then when the waves came, it lifted that. Right. And not everything does float. And that's why off our coast, we have what is known as the plastic...
the gyre.
The garbage patch.
Garbage patch, yes.
Yeah, and it's by some measures a lot larger than what we even thought, and what we thought was outrageous.
Right. It's miles and miles long. Supposedly, it's the state of Texas, but it's actually deeper, and they don't realize how deep it goes.
How deep it goes.
It's
just with
scary.
all levels of plastic and such. Well, you can get out there and help with this year's California Coastal Cleanup. Lots of opportunities wherever you live, and we have a link online. Makes it very easy to choose your county and choose your task. So, Kylie Singh with EcoSlope, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
And as always, thank you for listening. We'll be back here next week with a lot more. You're listening to Eat, Drink, Explore.